Don't you tell me not to care.
Don't you tell me not to care.
That's my brother over there.
That's my brother over there.
That's my sister over there.
That's my sister over there.
Sound off.
1, 2.
Sound off.
3, 4.
Bring 'em all home.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Goodbye, America, oh, где не был никогда. Прощай навсегда. Возьми банджо, сыграй мне на прощанье.
It has long been my belief that if we got all of the soldiers together, there would be no more war. When I got a call from Tom Birch to be part of the delegation of American veterans to tour the Soviet Union, it came as an answer to a lifelong dream. In the spirit of brotherhood, we met with the Soviet veterans to share our experiences and to find ways to mutually assist each other.
In a dark cell or a bamboo cage, Americans wait. Prisoners of war, their only crime serving their country to promote freedom in this world. Yet, they are not free. Some have waited more than 40 years. We want them home. We want them home now.
There were no strings attached. They were there to offer support to Soviet veterans in exchange for assistance from the Soviet government in securing the release of prisoners of war from World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. The members of the American delegation representing 400,000 veterans worldwide included Tom Birch, 5th Special Forces Vietnam, Chairman of the National Vietnam Veterans Coalition, Delegation Chairman. Tony Diamond, Korean War veteran and USO entertainer in Vietnam, Executive Director of Bravo and veteran organizer. Lamont Gaston, 3rd Marine Division, Vietnam, President of Vietnow and veteran organization consultant. The Reverend John Steer, 173rd Airborne, Vietnam, addiction specialist. Bill Bennett, 1st Cavalry, Vietnam, General Secretary to the National Vietnam Veterans Coalition, Delegation Advisor and Translator. John Snyder, 1st Logistical Command, Vietnam, Small Business Advisor. Mike Van Atta, Ranger, Vietnam, Prisoner of War expert. Psychologist Victor DeFazio, U.S. Army, Vietnam, Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Specialist. Cheryl Ann Smith, 1st Marine Division, Vietnam, Videographer and Director of Bravo Television. Dr. Lonnie Rex, President of the David Livingston Foundation, International Food and Medical Assistance Specialist. The Soviet host to the American delegation was Mikhail Goryunov, who served as a corporal in the Afghanistan War. It was his invitation to the delegation that made the following events possible.
In our last episode, we learned from our Soviet Vietnam adversaries, they didn't win and we didn't lose. They shared our feelings. This episode brings us further into a better understanding as we continue our meeting. Tom Birch, former Special Forces officer, Vietnam, now chairman of the National Vietnam Veterans Coalition, tells the Soviets who feel they were poorly treated on their return from Afghanistan how the Vietnam veteran was treated when he returned from his war.
This was the first war that our country either lost or did not come out with a decisive result in favor of the United States. As soldiers, we were confused because we felt that we had won all the military battles, but our politicians had lost the war. When we came home, we were spat upon. Some of my men here were beaten up. We were totally rejected. Any time that you indicated that you were a Vietnam veteran, people thought that you were either a baby killer or a drug addict or unreliable and maybe even a killer. The pain was very bad and we couldn't even talk about the experience. And then the men got together and they built a memorial in Washington, D.C. We raised the money and we got the land and we did it all ourselves because our government wouldn't do anything for us. But there was a unique thing about this monument that we called the Wall, because it had the names individually of all 55,000 Americans who died in combat in the Republic of South Vietnam. And the men came to this memorial and they'd put their fingers and they'd rub it against the names. And it would bring them back to the combat experience where they remember their buddies dying. And they would cry. That started the healing. So then the men started getting respect in themselves again. We recognized there were a lot of unresolved problems relating still from the war. Some of the men had been sprayed by a defoliant called Agent Orange, and they had cancers and skin crackling and all kind of unusual birth defects in their children. The government denied they knew anything about it, and of course, we know as soldiers that governments never lie. We felt that comrades had been left on the battlefield in Laos and Vietnam as prisoners of war. And our government told us that there were no prisoners of war, and of course we know that governments never lie.
You are all familiar with the U-2 spy plane that we shot down in 1960. I was the chief of staff of the unit that shot that plane down, and next to me is the chief engineer. So we are eyewitnesses to this event. The pilot, Francis Gary Powers, stayed alive despite our attempts, against all our mathematical calculations. We fired many missiles at his plane, and we even shot down one of our own planes trying to down him. But he was such a great pilot that we never did hit his plane. He had a flame out and his engine quit. Only God could have flown better than he did. Here is the pin representing our unit. God bless you. God bless Gary Powers.
Peace.
The Vietnam War, for me, was over 20 years ago. But for the men that were not released, that were captured alive, the war is still on.
They ask how many?
There are 2,300 men still missing, 480 who could have been captured alive. We gave the Supreme Soviet a list of 73 that we knew were captured alive. We have photographs of them. We have letters that they wrote. We have radio broadcasts that they made. And we have refugees who have left Southeast Asia that tell us they still see them there alive as prisoners. When these refugees report seeing an American, also in the same area or in the same facility, they report seeing Soviet advisors. From 1981 to 1990, we've received over 800 first-hand eyewitnesses accounts of live American prisoners still being held.
Около 800 свидетельств с 81 по 90 год мы получили от беженцев, которые свидетельствуют о том, что они видели живых американских военнопленных.
Soviet advisors in Vietnam and in Laos could also tell us that they've seen live Americans. We know that your prisoners, your Soviet citizens, your Soviet military are being held prisoner of war in Afghanistan. And we've come here to try to help get them released. And all we ask is that you help us account for our missing them. Now, I'm going to tell you a secret because it was kept secret that you folks were advisors in Vietnam. No Americans who were interrogated or interviewed by Soviet advisors came home. I gave this gentleman a declassified CIA document that refers to a facility in North Vietnam where Americans were taken and interviewed by Soviet advisors.
Американских военнопленных.
Да, американских военнопленных расспрашивали, или, можно сказать, допрашивали инструктора, советские инструктора военные.
Я, например, таких данных не имею.
He believes he has no information. He doesn't know about this.
I understand. All I'm asking you to do is ask the people that you knew that were there if they have any information, and let us know. Remember, this was over 20 years ago.
Но это было 20 лет тому назад.
All we are asking for is an accounting, and we're asking for your help, soldier to soldier.
Как солдат солдату.
Thank you.
Спасибо.
This is a healing experience for me to come face to face with you.
И меня это действительно лечит. Мне это помогает встретиться с вами.
I thank you for giving me that opportunity.
Спасибо вам за то, что вы мне дали эту возможность.
And I pledge to work with you for world peace.
Hear all their desperate cries for help, pleading for shelter and for peace. Our comrades are suffering. Come, let us meet them at their need. Don't let a wounded soldier die. Come, let us pour the oil. Come, let us bind the hurt. Let's cover them with a blanket of His love. Come, let us break the bread. Come, let us give them rest. Let's minister healing to them. Don't let another wounded soldier obeying their order. They fought on the front lines for our king, capturing the enemy's stronghold. Weakened from battle, Satan crept in to steal their lives. Don't let a wounded soldier die. Come, let us pour the oil. Come, let us bind the hurt. Let's cover them with a blanket of His love. Come, let us break the bread. Come, let us give them rest. Let's minister healing to them. Don't let another wounded soldier die. As we get together here, we can make the difference. We can bring home our POWs. Let's minister healing to them. Don't let another
These are our Urals berries, you see? Strawberry maybe. And blueberry, yes.
Colorado, yes? No, it's famous for the birch tree.
Connecticut, New Hampshire, Maine, many states.
This is one of the natives. Michael. Tony. It's a very old village, he says. It was founded in 862. 862. Wow. Yes.
Very old.
Wow. Hello, John Steer. Mikhail, good to meet you.
I live in a log home in the
Он
United
живет в
States.
таком же доме, сделанном из деревьев в Соединенных Штатах.
What business, what profession are you?
Ваша профессия какая?
Ну, я вообще-то пенсионер военный, но работаю.
Oh, he has retired. He's a military man, but he still works.
Я сейчас работаю в Союзтрансе.
What is this building here, Galina?
So it's local bank and post office, mail.
Uh-huh. Can we make monetary exchanges here?
I don't think so. Maybe you will try. Multiple service center. And what they can do, they can mend your clothes, you can have your clothes cleaned, just what else? You can do some keys, extra keys for your room. You can have your watches repaired. You can ask your TV.
Oh, TV repair?
Repair,
Oh.
yes. You can rent something from here, some musical instruments, some camera. Then if you want to go to the barbers, you can do it. You can have your hair trimmed or a hairdo for Cheryl if she likes.
Oh.
Yes. You can buy some hats if you'd like to. Обед-то пролетает. У нас мы трем ведь только приедем.
Would you say that we are probably the first Americans ever here?
I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah, the first Americans ever here. What would you like to buy? Let's have a look. The taxes are not very high, I'm sure. Здравствуйте. Галоши. Which one would you like?
The tall ones, the long ones.
Сапоги.
Use them for snow back home.
I understand.
Yes.
Which size do you need? If you'd like home, you will walk along New York, I hope.
10, well, it's 10.
44.
Just tell me, tell me your American size, please. 10. Значит, 43. Нет. А какой у вас? It is just 9.5.
Look at that cow sitting.
Yeah.
Look at that cow sitting. Look at where that cow is sitting.
Which way?
Leave it up there.
Миша, куда идти?
Chase it down.
Налево? Okay.
Slice it up there.
Что у нас тут есть? Ну, нет у нас транспорта.
They need transport. They have everything but transport. And they are not well paid, they say. Not much.
How long have they been here?
Сколько вы здесь лет живете вот в этом месте?
Ой, мы родились здесь.
They were born there all their life.
Я вот
And they say they would die.
17 лет уже только на пекарне работаю.
She has been working here for 17 years.
17 years.
She has already been working for 17
Никуда
years.
не хотим уезжать.
And they don't want to go anywhere. They like it.
This
She would like,
bread is baked
she
in a
would
wood.
like to show you. Well, please, yes, enough. She would like to show it to you. Вот сейчас стоит.
Топим сами.
Вот эти фотографии будут.
На здоровье.
Спасибо.
Советского хлеба.
Спасибо.
Деревенского.
Спасибо.
До свидания.
I'm going to take this homemade bread and dip it into this homemade jam and put it in this homemade body.
Dipped out.
20 years ago.
Oh, wow.
That good? Good stuff.
Oh. Natural milk.
That's right.
Do you know that's the first natural milk I've had since I was in reform school 40 years ago?
In Jersey?
Yeah.
No wonder we get along so good, Tony.
Yeah.
862. Это очень хорошая идея.
By admitting from cradle to tomb, it isn't anymore the stay. Life is a cabaret, old chum. It's only a cabaret, old chum. And I love a cabaret.
The excitement was building from all of the experiences we shared with the Soviet veterans. Now we were to meet with the Supreme Soviet Committee for Soviets who fought in foreign lands. They had POWs still held by the Mujahideen, and we wanted their help in accounting for our POWs from Vietnam, Laos, Korea, and World War II. Deputy Chairman Ajiv and the committee were most receptive.
And it is a matter of honor for all veterans, both our colleagues and here, to see our comrades who may be allowed to return.
I should say that this problem, the problem with prisoners of war, is first of all humanitarian, and it should not be considered from the point of view of ideology. It is above any ideology. You spoke about this new thinking in the Soviet Union. From the point of view of this new way of thinking, we should take the first step. So as far as the problem of American prisoners of war is concerned, I can see two stages of development of the solution of this problem. The personal cases of prisoners that you've given me can be solved almost immediately. For example, the lieutenant in Laos, the photograph of whom was in Pravda. We should be able to solve this right away because we have his name. As for the more than 15,000 American prisoners kept by the Soviet Union at the end of World War II, and the 8,000 prisoners left in North Korea, we must look into this matter. To solve the whole problem of prisoners of war, we will continue to work together.
Our meetings continued to even higher levels. We were now to meet with General Varinyakov, the commanding general of all Soviet land forces, in Supreme Soviet Army headquarters. A half-hour meeting led to an hour and a half, and the resolve to mutually assist each other in the return of all prisoners of war.
I completely share your position. We must act in the spirit of the times and in the spirit of democracy, humanity, and charity. The government should spend more time addressing these issues. So undoubtedly, because of world opinion, we should do good works. Mr. Birch, you can see there are people at this table who are directly connected with Afghanistan and express their concern for the Soviet prisoners being held there. Comrade Shitkov, he is the People's Deputy of the Soviet Parliament. He is also the chairman of the Supreme Soviet Committee of the Matters of Afghanistan. Comrade Kotanyov is the chairman of the Union of the Afghanistan Veterans. General Petrov. I would like to say that just after our meeting, Comrade Shitkov will go to see the ambassadors of Vietnam and Laos. And we all together, you and we, will bring up these issues of American prisoners of war.
Которых я не знаю, в терпком воздухе крикнет Последний мой бумажный пароход. Goodbye, Америка, где не был никогда. Прощай навсегда. Возьми банджо, сыграй мне на прощанье.
We have bridged the veil between our nations. A doorway has opened with Soviet assistance to not only account for our prisoners of war, but for prisoners of war of all nations. On behalf of Bravo and the National Vietnam Veterans Coalition, we express our sincerest appreciation to the Soviet people who made our visit so successful. There's a new breeze blowing around the world. Its message is for freedom.